Okay, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us today. Today's session is about insights from the evolving startup ecosystem in Japan. And we have wonderful speakers today, and we are planning to have an active dialogue among all of us. And we have three basically components we like to cover. Where we were, where we are now, and where we like to be in terms of opportunity for us. And my name is Hiro Nishiguchi. I'm a country head for GEN Japan and also Startup Genome. And I have a diverse background, but I think I've skipped my introduction and I'd like to ask each of you to spend like 1 minute to describe your background and why you are here today. Okay, so Fujimoto-san, please.
Okay, hi everyone, good morning. My name is Ayumi Fujimoto. So I'm a founder and the president of the Startup Ecosystem Association Japan. So my background is the career is Google. So I joined Google just after the IPO in 2007 as a sales. And after that, so I spent 9 years in Google, then moved to the startup, the fintech startup. Then I realized Google is very special, the company, so to go very first. But if I can create another kind of like the company, that maybe the Japan, the ecosystem and also economy will be good. So that's why I moved to Plug and Play to establish the Japan branch. Then during the Plug and Play period, I established this association. And now I left the Plug and Play last summer, focus on the Startup Ecosystem Association right now. Thank you very much.
Okay, Masaru-san.
Yeah, I'm Masaru Nagura from CAC, and I'm also working as a director of Startup Ecosystem Association. My background is that I'm PhD from nuclear engineering. I learned about the nuclear fusion reactor when I was in University of Tokyo, and then I joined Japanese government, and I was in Ministry of Science and Technology, and I was in charge of startup policy and innovation policy. Then I started my next research at MIT, and then I learned the innovation ecosystem in the Boston area, and that was great. So that's why I was interested in how I can build innovation ecosystem in Japan. Then I joined CIC Tokyo founding team back in 2020, and I was a team supporting or building CSE Tokyo, and now I'm being a director of CSE Institute. That is like a consulting or innovation team of the CSE, and I'm running 20 innovation and startups related programs in Japan. We love deep tech, we love global programs, and we love supporting Japanese startups to go abroad, and we also support non-Japanese startups to come to Japan. And I also advise like Tokyo Metropolitan Government and Japanese government. That's why I'm quite interested in how we can build more global ecosystem, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Over to you, Victor.
So my name is Victor Mulas. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer of CIC. CIC stands for Cambridge Innovation Center. And we run the largest startup campus in Japan. It's in Tokyo. It's more than 300 startups. And we just opened in Fukuoka. We have an active presence in Japan, and we are expanding. I come from the World Bank. I work around 14 years in the World Bank. And my mission there was to help governments to develop startup ecosystems. I did that and engaged in about 50 countries. One of them was Japan. And I spent the last 5 years in Japan, 3 of them working with the Japanese government to help developing the startup ecosystem policy. That was in 2017, and we've seen a lot of changes and we're going to talk about it later. And after that, I decided to continue supporting the Japanese ecosystem and stay engaged. And I joined CAC because it was the best platform to do that and really support the ecosystem. I continue working with the Japanese government as advisor in several committees and supporting the expansion of the ecosystem.
Over to you, Nakajima-san.
Hi, everyone. Daiki Nakajima from Jetro, New York. Congrats to any Pacers fans here by any means. Anyways, JETRO is the Japanese government trade agency. We have global offices all over the world, and my role, I joined JETRO 2010. I primarily do US-Japan alliances, anything that relates to those two countries. As of late, I've been doing a lot of the startup efforts, so many of the Japanese startups that's been coming to the US market, we have great partners like CIC that we also work alongside amongst other ecosystems as well. So I'm happy to talk more about that. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. As you can see, we have a very interesting, diverse background people today, and there'll be very different view perhaps on the ecosystem. Well, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I've been part of this startup ecosystem for the past 15 years. And I have observed, experienced so many changes in Tokyo and elsewhere. So let's talk about where we were about 10 years ago. And who wants to go first?
Maybe I can go first.
Yeah.
As for the ecosystem in Japan, we are growing in rapid pace in the last 10 years. Last 10 years, we doubled the investment, VC investment as a total. Now we have more than 5 billion US dollars annually in Japan. And we also having many seed or early stage startups. Now we have more than 9,000 startups. It depends on the database. And we are also having many university spin out startups, because traditionally Japanese universities are really bad at commercialization, and many researchers are not willing to start their own business. But that is changing in these 10 years. So we have many university spin-out startups, and Japanese universities are really aggressive to make new companies out of their research outcomes. That is my understanding of the current state of Japanese startup ecosystem.
Can I add one thing?
Go ahead.
And especially 3 years ago, so Japan government, maybe Daki-san will mention later. So Japanese government announced the 5 years startup strategy, so to more support aggressively. And also Tokyo metropolitan government also announced the same kind of 5-year strategy. So the Masaru-san mentioned, so I'm also the advisor for the both the government and the Tokyo metropolitan government. So they released the kind of like a strategy. So almost the same timing. So it's a great timing. So to more the announce or the growth, the ecosystem in Japan as well as Tokyo.
Any insights?
Yeah, I think.
You guys are very
Just
modest
quickly,
each other.
no. Just from a numbers perspective from the US side, because I always see Japan from the US side. So 10 years ago in San Francisco and Silicon Valley, there's probably maybe 50, 60 Japanese companies. That was about 10 years ago in Silicon Valley. Today, there's more than 400 to 500 companies, Japanese companies situated there, right? So that's huge in terms of how Japan is looking at that startup ecosystem. And that's how much you can see that the pace of Japan's sort of speed in terms of trying to catch up to the world amongst the ecosystem. So I just wanted to point that out.
No, thank you, and that's great context. I want just to add another flavor, which is how close Japan ecosystem for startups was to foreigners. It was a very domestic mindset. Primarily, everybody was speaking in Japanese. This is 2017, the first time I went there, and the government was asking me when I was in the World Bank, can you do an assessment of the Japanese ecosystem because we want to compare internationally. And they didn't have that. They wanted to think. So it was the moment of opening. And my mission was to go all around Japan and have interviews with all the stakeholders. We did around 300 interviews with everyone that we could meet at the time, which probably was a good representation at that time. And it was Tokyo, it was in Fukuoka, it was in the Osaka area, etc. And you could see that very few people would speak English, number one. Very few people would think about going global or thinking internationally. You fast forward today, complete different. You have centers, like CSC is one of them, that you can completely engage in English, but you have many others. You have new accelerators that are coming, that are from abroad. You have a lot of startups that are starting to think, hey, we want to enter in Japan, and they are welcome. There are many Japanese founders that are thinking, hey, I want to go outside. And they connect probably with you a lot in the US. And that change has been dramatic and it's accelerating. And I think it's proof of how the Japan ecosystem is being more competitive because it has many more things, attracting more talent, but also embracing that talent and getting it inside of the ecosystem.
Great. According to Startup Genomes and the GEN's joint report, which we publish every June at some tech conferences around the globe, and this year we will do it in Paris next week. And so according to our GSER, Global Startup Ecosystem Report, Tokyo was out of the range for many years. However, 2 years ago, Tokyo became number 15 among 300 ecosystems around the globe. We analyze the ecosystem, the city by city, and also nation by nation. And then last year, the ranking has jumped up to 10th, from 15th to 10th. So Tokyo, I would say Tokyo is now recognized one of the top 20 ecosystems in the world. However, so let's talk about other cities. We have so many cities. Tokyo is not the only place in Japan, and we have wonderful, nice places from north to south. So let's talk about what's happening in the other part of the country. Want to go first? Yeah,
Maybe I can go first. I'd like to highlight Aichi Prefecture and Fukuoka Prefecture. Maybe Aichi is known as a home to Toyota, and they're really strong at manufacturing. And Aichi was not regarded as the prefecture of the startup. They have large companies, but many people seen Aichi doesn't have a startup. But Aichi Prefecture really started many efforts to build more manufacturing-related startups, and it's start moving. And second city I'd like to mention is Fukuoka. We opened CIC Fukuoka last month, and it's really successful. And what Fukuoka want to do is more internationalization, more globalization of startup. Because Fukuoka is a small city. Fukuoka is in the really, southern area of Japan, and there's a lot of population increase of the Fukuoka city, and the age of the people are really young in Fukuoka. And that's why Fukuoka is really active to support startup, and many founders come to Fukuoka. At the same time, many of the Fukuoka's business are small. They are being really small SMEs, and that's why Fukuoka Prefecture and Fukuoka City want to have more globalization and more foreign entrepreneurs to come to Fukuoka. That's going on right now.
Let me ask a very basic question, just so that we can understand where the hell Fukuoka is. How far is Fukuoka from Tokyo? How long does it take by flight?
By flight, 1.5 hours, 90 minutes by flight.
Okay, short flight.
Yeah, it's short. And also Aichi, by bullet train, it's only 90 minutes from Tokyo. It's really like Japan is not that large country, but we are having various ecosystems in Japan.
Any comments about other cities? Yes, Victor, please.
Yeah, so I think what we've seen is how all the other cities are starting to specialize. And I think that's very important because it's giving us a landing base for connecting with special clusters. So for instance, and that has been a policy from the government that has helped united the universities and the research together with the stakeholders of the ecosystem. They have been forming consortiums that brings all the stakeholders that you need, the accelerators, the ecosystem builders, together with the universities, together with the government, and they all have a clear strategy. And it's interesting because depending on where you go, you have a very, very unique way of looking at things, right? So Fukuoka is more internationalization. They're looking at Southeast Asia. They're working a lot with Singapore, with Taiwan, with Indonesia, Philippines, and so on and so forth. And they are focusing primarily on that part. But you go to others, like you want space, you can go to Hokkaido. And they are specializing on that area because they have a spaceport and they can really do that. Or agriculture, because they are very good at food. So you go on food tech, you go to Sapporo, or you go to Kumamoto, where they have a very specialized technologies on that. But also the universities and the research is specialized on that. In Aichi, which is Nagoya, just for those of you that only know the city, could be Nagoya, that's more the robotics, but also the manufacturing base. Aichi has the largest concentration of R&D departments of corporations in Japan. And when I say corporations in Japan, it means multinational corporations. So the Japanese corporates are huge. You're talking about the Hitachis, the Toyotas, the Fujitsus, and so on and so forth. Having that concentration is very good if you really want to focus on, for instance, manufacturing kind of AI solutions to be more efficient, or you want to look into different robotic manufacturing to make it more efficient. You have a good testing base that is there. And then you have the Osaka area with Kyoto, where you have a very good biotechnology that is coming from the universities that come there, but also one of the largest concentration of industry in the country. Osaka is the second largest city in Japan. It's 20 million people. Okay, you need to see the scale of the market here. Tokyo, by the way, is around 40 million people. You have the population of a country like Spain in one city. So think about those kind of scales, and that gives you different markets that you will have, and specialized markets. So if you're interested in a specific sector, try to look into which one could be the landing base for you, or the connecting base for you, because it could be more specialized than just Tokyo.
Yeah, in Japan, we have 47 prefectures, same as a state in the US. Each the prefecture has the policymaker, so for startup. So we, Startup Ecosystem Association, held the All Japan Ecosystem Meetup last year. So we invited more than 70, including a city, the policymakers, over 70 policymakers, so like the GEC. So to more talk about how to share the knowledge, so to accelerate the startup or support the startup each other. So as Victor said and Masaru said, so each prefecture has each strong industry. My recommendation is Nagasaki. So Nagasaki is the south city. They are promoting the bio industry, but we thinking so more of a blue economy is the more strong point for the Nagasaki city. Anyway, so yeah, so each prefecture has each strong point, and also industry, company, and culture and the ecosystem. So maybe that would be the great point.
Great. You know, all of you have been working with our national and local governments for the past years. And so let's talk about the level of the commitment we have from the national leader or local leaders, both from public and public sector. Maybe you may want to explain your, say, thinking. Maybe Nakajima-san?
Sure.
Yeah? Sure.
So from the national level, it's really exciting because as from the previous question too, everything was concentrated. Japan was Tokyo, Tokyo was everything, and now we're seeing more of the other prefectures, whether it's Hokkaido or Okinawa or Fukuoka or Osaka. We're seeing more of them create this sort of ecosystem amongst their prefectures. And the reason why I think this is moving really quickly was because culturally, Japan not liking to take risk, they allowed us, JETRO, they gave us money to sort of try out everything that we can possibly do to bring this ecosystem into Japan. And so where we never created accelerator programs, where we've never had this sort of VC culture, today it's exploding at very fast. And we do close to 40, 50 accelerator programs a year from the government side. But now we're seeing the prefectures using their budgets to create accelerator programs, working with partners, and then even the VCs creating their own little programs inside Tokyo. So I think in this past 4 or 5 years, we've seen that really move quickly. And I think that's really key for sort of the government, the national, the ministries, to give us the chance to sort of trial and error whatever we can with everybody globally. Yeah.
And I want to give credit to JETRO. He's very modest, but JETRO in the last 4 years, in Japan you didn't have an international accelerator. The only one was Plug and Play at the time, and it was kind of not yet fully deployed. That's what happened. They didn't have a fund associated with the accelerator, and we didn't have those kind of accelerators. There were no Techstars. There was no 500. They were not like the traditional ones you would see any other places around the world. Now we have 4 and counting, thanks to JETRO. They did an amazing job of attracting that. And they wanted to do that to not only work with Japanese entrepreneurs, but also with foreign entrepreneurs to come together with Japanese entrepreneurs and develop startups. Now they have TechStars, they have Alchemist, they have Plug and Play with a Fan, finally. We have that. And you are bringing now probably a new one that is in the making from where you are, so I know it's your credit. The other thing that JETRO has been doing is working with each of these regions to help the globalization and the connection internationally. And they have programs to take their startups and go to other markets and vice versa. And I think that gives a lot of credit. But that commitment goes not only from JETRO, which is from the national government, that comes from a policy, the 5-year plan. When Japan does that, everybody aligns. And that's what is happening now. And it's like an aircraft carrier that when it turns, it goes very, very slow, but then it turns and really moves everything together. That's what happened with Japan. And now the turn has happened, and now everybody's moving. So it goes from the central government to the prefecture. And everybody's aligned now. What you're seeing is the implementation, and now it's going to go exponential. So you will see more and more of that.
Regarding the role of the national and prefectural level government, the national government in Japan are having the very fundamental role, putting a lot of R&D budget and changing the culture and sending startups from Japan to overseas. At the same time, if you want to connect to the local industries, of course you need to go to the prefectural government or city government. And that is the work of the prefectural government is doing right now, building own ecosystem and involving the local industries. As I told you, the Aichi Prefecture and Nagara City is having more attention from the manufacturing companies that is located in Aichi. And also there's a lot of media company or media industries working with the Fukuoka government. So if you want to connect with the local industry in Japan, which has a really strong power because there's a huge potential of the manufacturing and other industry in Japan, it's better to talk with the local prefecture or city level government. And they are having the ownership to build the local ecosystem and building the industry.
Yeah, in addition, the local, the government side is more flexible. That's the strong point. Yeah.
Are you implying that national government is not flexible?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes, but the local governments are very flexible because they are, and also they really welcome to the other, the global ecosystem. So need more connect to the or MOU or something sometimes. So maybe you can access them more, aggressively.
Yeah, I think it's very important actually to point out that actually, Startup Genome GEN published this GSER every year, and we focus on cities because people don't come to a country. People come to some country by choosing one city to live and work, and Tokyo has been a huge, I would say, magnet for many business from both ways. But also Indianapolis is also one of the biggest magnets for us because we have a very strong presence of Japanese industries in Indiana, the state of Indiana, particularly in the area of automobile. So I think actually we love each other, so the collaboration among cities is so important. So before proceeding, I would like to actually understand the audience. And so I would like you to raise your hand. So you have 4 choices. Number 1, founders, investors, policymakers, others. Okay? So who are founders in this audience? Great. Thank you. Are you? Okay, yes, you are. And who are investors? Okay, thank you. And who are policymakers? Okay, great. And who are doing something else? Okay, great. I'm hoping that we can have some sort of dialogue at the end of this session. So let's continue conversation. So we've been talking about Japan's past and present. We have a strong Tokyo, but we seem to have very various diversified cities from north to south. And so what are the opportunities or the future of Japan's ecosystem? Because last night, while we were sleeping, Prime Minister Ishiba has just announced the newly selected global startup ecosystem cities. And it's interesting to say that actually Prime Minister himself made an announcement about the newly selected group of cities national governments wants to focus on. And the key word is a globalization of each city, not only Tokyo, but other cities. So with that, what are the opportunity we can offer to the rest of the world in both ways? Going out or welcoming? Do you have any comments? Okay, Victor, please.
Yeah, I want to put this in perspective, given the audience of what does it mean as a startup and what is happening. And I want to give some cases that we are starting to see, because we told you the ecosystem has been increasing, but what does it mean? And what it means is you have startups that are getting into the valuations of the 50 million, the 100 million, the 200 million, and they are there to grow, and they are based on the technologies that are very, very strong. Japan doesn't have big volume of those startups yet. It's growing the base, but it has very good quality. Wherever you get one of those, the technology is very, very good, and they tend to dominate the market where they go. And it's interesting because this is starting to happen with these startups. And I give you some examples. You have Astroscale, it's a space technologies. It started as a company that goes to take care of the space debris, a problem that nobody else was solving. And these guys had the technology that can solve that. More importantly, they could refuel satellites in the sky. They are the only ones that can do that in the world. And they devised this API of refueling, so they can do it with any satellite. Nobody else has that technology. Of course, probably it comes from a university research, and then they commercialize. But that gives them a complete advantage, and that's making the company very interesting. Another one is GETI. And GETI does a robotic arm. It's autonomous. It's the only robotic arm that can be completely autonomous in the space, and is certified by NASA, ESA, and JAXA. They have also a monopoly on that technology, but because they are very good. Of course, the chief technology officer, is the former head of robotics of University of Tokyo department. So you can see where does it go. The more you have of that, the better. Now, those are companies where the market is in the US, and they devise a strategy to be half Japanese, half American company in this case, and bring staff. Half of their staff is foreigner too. And they make it work. This is starting to happen more and more. And they look for partners in those countries. And by the way, the Space Force gave a huge procurement to Astroscale. It's like a $50 million, which also tells you how competitive they are, but how can they adapt to other markets, because they need security clearances and so on and so forth. And it's not easy. The last one example is Sakana AI, which is the latest unicorn in Japan. It's about AI technologies. And they are building a model based on open source. Think about DeepSeek. This is the Japanese version of DeepSeek. It's complicated because it's called evolutionary model, which means they take a lot of open source and then they make it compete like evolution, Darwin theme. But their clients are corporates. They go for AI for corporates, and it's been very successful. Now, they are based in Japan. Founders were foreigners that come from Google, Japan. They were stationed there, and they decided, hey, Japan is a good place for this. It has the talent, it has the market, let's stay. And then they started recruiting their job force. And they realized they needed the talent from Silicon Valley, engineers for AI, because they are more competitive. Their offer was, come to us because you're going to live in Japan, which is wonderful. People want to do that, and bring your family. Now, that is a competitive advantage for them, because once they're in Japan, they don't leave. They are very happy there. But if they do this in Silicon Valley, they will be competing with all other AI startups taking their talent out. So now they have become very competitive because they can have consistency in the job force and develop their models more and more, and actually have a very good client base that allows them to get volume. Those are the kind of things that Japan can offer if you are thinking of collaborating with Japan or entering the Japan market or investing in the Japan market. Look at those advantages and how you can, as an ecosystem that you're outside, as a foreigner, interact with this Japan.
One of the potential area is deep tech, because deep tech is really hot word in Japan in terms of the startup. Japanese government have been investment in deep tech. They prepared like 1 billion fund for the deep tech support from NIDO. That is one of the funding agency in Japan. And almost all of the prefectural governments talk about deep tech. They say they want to promote deep tech more, and they support deep tech startups more than ever. So I see the potential of the deep tech startups come from Japan, and other deep tech startups from outside Japan will be more easier to go to the Japanese market because that is one of the hot keywords. At the same time, of course, the deep tech having not huge barrier for the like a language barrier or cultural barrier. Because for example, for the cancer drug, there's no border for the cancer, right? Or no language barrier for the cancer drug. So that's why if you are working with deep tech startup or something having the deep tech related program, now is the come to Japan because a lot of people are really interested in not only government but also corporate, banks, investors. They all want to do the deep tech.
It's interesting because I think deep tech does require not only idea, but actually ability to make things accurately, precisely, and also on time, right? So these are things we can do very well. In our country, anywhere, a train arrives on time and leaves on time, precisely, minute by minute. And that's a common sense for us. But in some countries, that's not necessarily the case. And it's not good or bad, but this country, Japan, has a very strong culture of precision and, precision.
Quality of the manufacturing,
Yes.
right? Yes.
Anyway, so with that, any other comments about opportunities?
Sure. I think Japan, after speaking to so many different partners and seeing a lot of the startup founders coming to the U.S. and trying to do their best to enter this market, Japan has a lot of opportunities. You mentioned it too. There's ample university IPs available in Japan that hasn't been really utilized properly. There's opportunities for investors, foreign investors, to still come to the Japanese market. We need more angel investors. Now the issue is the policy side, where it's not as friendly as U.S. for instance in terms of taxes. It's getting there, but it's not completely there yet. That's friendly. So there's still a lot of work, but you're starting to see more of these investors come in, and obviously you need investors to strive a good startup tech ecosystem. So those are the opportunities that I think we'll start to see more of. The government has this super ambitious goal that I don't know if it's going to be met, to be honest. I want to be very optimistic on it, but 100,000 startups needs to be formed in the next 2 years. We have 25,000 at the moment about. And 100 unicorns, we have about 8 at the moment. So a big challenge, and we need to figure this out, and we're trying to do that. So I think bringing the investors in, bringing more foreign business-minded CEOs working with engineers and researchers in Japan to form a company. That's another great area. That's startup friendly to a lot of the prefectures now. So I think that's where the opportunities might be.
Yeah, we are talking about the government side today because of policy making, the summit here. But I would say we need to mention the big corporation in Japan. So we have a lot of big corporations, so a more global corporation in Japan, and also they are really open to open innovation. But sometimes they're very conservative, so to proceed a project, it takes time. But maybe things will be changed. So they need more open innovation and need change by collaborating with the startup.
Excellent. I think we have about 10 minutes more, so I'd like to take maybe questions from the audience. And okay, so please, and could you identify yourself and ask a question?
Hi, my name is Lisa, and I work at Michigan Technological University, which is in a remote rural area of Michigan. It's in the Upper Peninsula. And I want to thank you all. I thought this was a really interesting conversation. And I want to share a little bit about where my question comes from. So I work within the Tech Transfer Office at Michigan Tech, and we have a strong research faculty. We just recently became an R1 institution. However, our entrepreneurship culture doesn't match our level of prowess as researchers. And so I'm working with a team of individuals who's trying to elevate conversation around entrepreneurship. So we have somewhat of a conservative culture, which is maybe analogous to what I've heard today about the government, perhaps. And I'm wondering, so when I think about the evolution of the exponential growth in entrepreneurship and the focus, I'm wondering if it sounds almost like it was a grassroots effort, and as a, you know, the research shows that grassroots efforts succeed with social capital and with leadership buy-in. Without those, they're destined to fail. And so at what point did you get enough social capital? What tips and tricks do you have to get the social capital and the leadership buy-in to help individuals who have small entrepreneurship ecosystems that they're trying to grow?
Maybe.
Yeah, I can this question. I have the third hat, being a professor at university. I'm a specially appointed professor at Institute of Tokyo, Institute of Science Tokyo. That is one of the top-tier research university in Japan. And I'm supporting university researchers to have their own business, I mean startup. And I really understand your question, and that is the most difficult part. Even we have great researchers, we don't have entrepreneurs who can match with that research. And to support that, as you mentioned, we need to have long-term entrepreneurship education. At the same time, we need to have the infrastructure to support researchers and entrepreneurs to meet each other, and also find a good match. And to do that, we need to have strong basis of the network of the universities, network of the ecosystem, and network of the accelerators. So having the great entrepreneurs only from your ecosystem is really difficult because of the social capital issue, as you mentioned. That's why we are trying to have more entrepreneurs from outside that university, outside that city. That's why we are having the connection and consortiums of the universities in Japan. So we have like 9 large consortiums of the university in Japan, and they are, those 9 consortiums are working very well to connect each other and sending entrepreneurs and sharing the knowledge. That is happening in Japan. And maybe that will take time, but that kind of activities, mobilizing the entrepreneurs and then let them match well with the researchers will work well in the future.
So just to add on that part, because of the social capital you were mentioning, and you are far away, you mentioned that isolated. So in Japan, that's not unusual also in Japan. You have amazing universities that are a little bit more isolated, one of these prefectures. And yes, they're forming the consortiums and they are working around, but from GEC, because we are the largest campus and we also have the largest meetup that happens in Japan, and we have a network of those meetups, that's the social capital part. And you're talking about a meetup that you have every week on a Thursday, regular, for 4 or 5 hours, random topics of innovation, diverse community, comes 30% startups, and you have researchers, government, whatever, everything around. You get around 300 to 400 people every night, every week. So it's a good kind of cluster of that social network. So we've been working with universities that are top universities, like OIST in Okinawa, which is one of the largest top universities in Japan that brings foreign research at the highest level, or Ibaraki Prefecture in Tsukuba, which is also a cluster of universities and research institutes. And what we do is we work with them into creating clusters of their researchers to come to these network events, to develop a whole day of their event just to showcase and then to mingle. And then that happens constantly to connect their ecosystem of researchers with this kind of social network. And then we help them, specifically those ones that are ready for commercialization, to embed in those communities. So they usually have also a small office in the center just to have the researchers that are thinking of commercialization to start embedding themselves on the larger community. And they become ambassadors, and they bring that back later, and it rotates. So there are different techniques to do that that we can talk about later, but it works on how do you connect your community to a larger community. And that's happening in Japan already, and that's part of what they are doing through the consortiums and this connection of different ecosystems with these social networks.
Excellent. Thank you. Please. Then second you.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for all of you being here. Learned a lot today. I'm the executive director at San Francisco Bay University. It's in Fremont, East Bay area. My question is, I understand we're talking about Japan's evolving startup ecosystem, but when they evolve outside of the Japan market and they want to enter the US market, where are you directing them? Any particular markets, or is it the usual suspects on the coast?
I guess I can speak on that. In most cases, Silicon Valley is going to be the most popular. Our prime minister originally was like, go to Silicon Valley, so everybody went to Silicon Valley. That's obviously not the case when it comes to, is that really the most efficient place? We work with, in San Francisco, we work with UC Berkeley, we work with Stanford, we work with MIT in the East Coast, we work with other universities in the Midwest. So we're also trying to disseminate the information to the startups saying, hey, it's not just Silicon Valley, or it's not just New York or Boston. There are actually other areas amongst the U.S. that might be better for you. We have 6 offices in the U.S., so each have their own jurisdictions. But we certainly are the key, I think, government agency that can essentially let all these startups know that you might want to go to Silicon Valley, but that's not going to be probably your market, and we can, with confidence, tell these startups that that's the case. And then you have obviously ecosystem builders like CIC, who they can go to, and others that we closely work with that can help.
And I would say that Jetro has done a great job in doing that, because the mindset of Japanese, especially since I've been there in Japan, has been always Silicon Valley first. And that is changing. And it's changing because of specialization and also their programs. So for instance, if startups are doing life science and bio, they will think Boston or San Diego may be better. And Jetro took that and started developing programs to go there, and they have been effective. The same with robotics. They will go into, it works to go to Boston. But then they expanded into Europe too. There's much more exchange with Paris, and actually we're going to Paris later on, and part of it is a mission of Jetro too that is going to be there, connecting with the European ecosystem, or London for that matter, or now Germany. Because if you think about it, in Germany sometimes the engineering conundrum is the same. And the market of access is similar, it's large corporations. But it's an education process, and I think Jetro has been doing a great job in little by little opening the market and the mindset. And it's starting to work, and you will start seeing that, and the same with universities and the connection. So it's a question, if you really want to expand that from your side, is connect with people like him, and then it will work into building the bridges.
Great. Last question for her, please. Microphone, please. Thank you very much.
Hello, can you hear me? Well, my name is Paola. I'm an ecosystem builder from South America, from Peru. We work with about 24 provinces in Peru. We have that connection with the universities, with the local governments, also with the ministries from the central government. What we're seeing is that as we are building this connection with the universities and the startups, the communities, and get them involved, now we are finding that our governors from each province, they're looking into partnering with other governments in other countries, that globalization that you say. So what would you recommend would be the best way of connecting with Japan, depending on the specialization? For example, we have some areas in the southern Peru where their specialty is mining. Other areas, their specialty is agriculture. They're already exporting olive oil, asparagus, fruits, some smart foods. So they are looking for that specialty. What would be the best province, or what the best place to connect from Peru to Japan?
I can respond in high level. Of course, GSE is one of the best places, but at the same time, you can take multiple approaches because finding a great partner by the only one channel is not easy. So use different channels to support your startups, your ecosystem to find great partner. Of course, GETRO can be a great resource. GETRO has an office around the world. That is one of the great channel. And also Startup Ecosystem Association, having a connection to the many local city governments in Japan. So she can be a really great hub for you to connect it with the industries. And also you can work with your local government because many cities are having like a sister city relationship. And many city governments or national level government of your country are sending startups to Japan. And that has been a great resource for you. Of course, you can find some city government or prefectural government in Japan because some of them are having like a soft landing program to that government, like an inbound program, but it's not easy to find it. So that's why I recommend you to work with those hubs to find a good prefecture or city government. Am I answering your question?
Okay, I think our time is up, and I don't think we have any moment to have a closing moment. So I think we had a great conversation. Thank you very much for your constructive comment, and I think we can stick around a little bit, perhaps somewhere over there. And so again, thank you very much for joining us this morning. And we'd like to continue this conversation with each of you, if not everybody. And so thank you very much again. Thank you.